We just talked about best practices and optimal shutter speed settings in HDR photography. That leads us to the next most obvious question, which is, are there best practices and optimal aperture settings when it comes to HDR photography? Now you're gonna hate this answer, but the answer is actually yes and no. We're somewhere in between, and it really is going to depend on the overall look and scene that you're going for. And let me explain. With every single lens, there is an optimal aperture setting that's going to yield the highest or maximum sharpness. This setting is known as basically the lens's sweet spot. Okay, generally, and this is a rule of thumb, that setting or that sweet spot can be found around 3 to 4 stops, 4 full stops, above the maximum aperture opening. So typically for, like, say a 2.8 lens, that sweet spot might be between f8 and f11. But here is the big but. Aperture is going to really depend on the actual scene and the overall effect that we're going for. Sometimes we have to basically use a wider aperture despite the fact that we're going to get a little bit less sharpness in our image simply because we need the extra light. Sometimes we want to use a closed down aperture. Now a closed down aperture at say f16 and beyond is going to cause something known as diffraction, which will reduce a little bit of the sharpness in our image as well because of the way that the light is bending when it comes in the lens. Either way, it's not the sweet spot, but we shoot at say f16 and up because we want to again create certain effects. Shooting with these higher apertures like around f14, f16 and beyond are going to create starburst patterns in our lights. So when we want to get a nice starburst from the sun, those are the settings that we're going to use, and that becomes the optimal consideration, is the overall composition and the look that we want to have. The other side is the consideration of overall exposure. Those things can often outweigh whether or not you're shooting at the actual aperture sweet spot or at the lens's aperture sweet spot. But just know that each lens has an actual sweet spot. You can go online, check out the different lens reviews that are available. A lot of them will tell you exactly what setting your lens's sweet spot is at, just so you know it. And then you're going to go and approach a scene. Whenever you approach a new scene, think to yourself, what kind of composition am I going for? Am I looking to create a starburst effect? Do I need to get extra light? If neither of these really matter, then yes, shoot at the sweet spot on your aperture because it will maximize overall detail in the image. If these other things do matter, well then I would say go with the other two things because it's going to affect the overall composition more so than the adjustment or the effect it's going to have over the detail. Hopefully this helps you guys out. Let's go on to the next video.